All right, guys. With me, I have the Pie Maker from Reborn Knights Black, and they took this series 2-0. So, congratulations on the domination against CGL White.
Thank you.
So, Sky Temple, definitely not a map that is very frequented by most teams nowadays. I take it that entire draft and strategy was tailored for Sky Temple.
Well, so actually, as it turns out, we've only run the map once, but it went really well. So we were like, well, why don't we give it a shot? um, the one time we ended up in it in scrims, it was like, well, this is going pretty decently. So um, I don't know. When we ran it, it felt like we jived with kind of what the camp timings were, and we had a good feel for like the macro on it. So it kind of gave us, you know, some confidence going into that one that one might kind of cater to what we do well. Felt pretty good actually. Like the timing seemed to kind of line up as we were hoping. So, but yeah, no, we definitely wanted kind of some global macro pressure, and that kind of felt good.
Yeah, I mean, it looked really good how you executed as a team. Where I pointed out at one point in the stream that you guys had only secured, I think it was 3 kills, but we're up 2 levels, which just showed how much you guys gained out of those kills you did get, which transformed into a major XP lead of talent tiers, and then they went for the throw pit, and you guys were basically able to win off of that alone.
Yeah, and I do have to give a shout out to them. I kind of actually thought that the going for the boss might have been a pretty good call at that point because at that point we haven't been giving them team fights. So at some point they had a decent team fighting comp, and so they had to kind of like force the team fight. And there was no better time than when like Gust had just gone down to save, I think it was our Rhaegar. So we kind of busted all of our like boss securing abilities. So
Yeah.
I mean, we basically were going to have to go in and fight them. So I was actually a little nervous when I saw they were at the boss because I was like, well, we're going to find out what we're made of here because we're going to have to actually fight them. So. Um,
Well,
but fortunately, like because it was so forced, they were down a level and everything. Like we were still able to kind of come out on top on it.
yeah, you guys cleaned up pretty well in that fight, to say the least. I mean, walking away with everyone dead, with the boss, and it doing free core damage is always a win-win.
Yeah, yeah, it was really good timing too because the double shrines were up. Um, some quality camps were up to kind of help pressure around. So they had to like they were forced to deal with the other camps that were then on the map and all the pressure that they already had going and couldn't contest the 2 shrines that were at that point hitting core. So it was kind of really advantageous timing.
Yeah, it was definitely advantageous. So, how did you guys? After you got the boss and you pushed in with it, what was the decision there of not going to the core? And since obviously it went down to 80% without anyone on your team's help, did you guys just not believe you could core there, or did you not realize how much damage the boss would do on its own?
So I mean, we definitely could have won there. But the thing was, I think it was right there. We were like flipping 19 to 16. I can't remember the levels, but it was like right at talent tier, and 2 shrines were up. They had top camp up. So, there's two kind of two calls. We could have, just gone for the core, which likely would have been a win, but there's that, chance that we would have kind of blown it on the core call.
Mhm.
Or we could have grabbed their top camp while that's pressuring and the boss is pressuring. We get the 2 shrines and just secure map 20s and essentially the win. And so we kind of just felt that was safer. And at that point, kind of playing the safe team fight avoidance macro style had kind of gotten to us to that point to begin with. So we were like, let's just, we don't want to throw here at the end of the game when it's been so solid and so crisp up until this point. Like we didn't want to, kind of smash our face on the core and it go awry.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, What were comms like when you guys knew that there were catapults on the court? Because I saw the interrupt from Crafty Devil the first time, and I was basically shouting that Pone was standing there and trying to hearth a second time in the same exact spot.
Yeah, so Crafty actually called it out. He was like, Tahaka's trying to go back, like, let's stop him. And we saw the Katas were on core. And he called for the second interrupt. I had Gust up at that point. And so the only person who was in position to get the interrupt on the Dahaka was me. And I was considering using the Gust, but then I was like, well, if things kind of go awry and we need it for further disengage, because at that point we're not like necessarily trying to win the team fight, we're just trying to like keep them there.
Mm-hmm.
So if things start to look a little nasty and they come at us and whatnot, I wanted the Gust, and I was hoping I was going to be able to get in range for Q, but they kind of came forward in time to like protect their Dahaka from me being able to get to the Dahaka. So then it was just kind of us trying to disrupt the other four. And the second we saw the Dahaka go back, we were like, wait, this is a 4v5, like, let's take it. Because then that either forces the Dahaka to return, or it, in which case he's not protecting the core, or it, he doesn't come back and we get a 4v5 engage, or at least maybe it was a 4v4 at that point. I can't remember what the numbers were like, but more advantageous. So it was just kind of a dance. The comms were pretty hectic, but all very focused, which was nice. It was like we were all just like kind of very actively like shouting out what was happening and what we were seeing. So that was nice to hear.
So I don't know if you guys saw. Obviously, you'd be able to go and see it in the stream. That Dolce actually walked by Triple C4's Alex Straza. I don't know if he had vision on her, but he literally walked by right before she heard back, and she was all alone. I was kind of kind of taken aback that Alex Straza didn't die right there.
Oh wow. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that one and then give Dolce a hard time for it.
Because he was sitting down in that bush, and I
Uh-huh.
assumed he was looking for kind of like that straight animal to put to pasture, and didn't
Uh-huh.
find anyone. But Alex Straza was right there for him.
I bet she was terrified at that point too. Because well, let's see, what was that, Tracer? Yeah, that would not have been a good matchup.
Yeah. So game number two, obviously you guys had the win, and I'd assume you were riding off some momentum. You guys looked, I'd almost say, even better in game number two, and how well executed it was, and almost how little happened from CGL White. Where CGL White's comp, like you said in the first game, was scary for you guys because of how much more team fight oriented you felt it was. At the same time, like the second game felt more like they put their cards in the wrong basket, or their eggs in the wrong basket, and
Mhm.
were handing you the game with how you decided to once again go with like macro control.
Yeah, so I was a little scared at first. So I mean, I think they kind of had more emphasis on that map than the previous map, at least on their camp timings. And at the beginning, they kind of threw a bit of a twist to kind of the
Mm-hmm.
standard rotation you'd see by like, grabbing the siege, then pressuring top. Um, and I was, a little worried about how that was going to play out, just because at that point we had like a Hanzo level 3 or level 4, so we're not camp clearing quickly. We're not going to be
Mm-hmm.
able to get back into lane. They were getting value, and I was kind of worried how that was going to play out. They had the gray main, so they had early game camp pressure. But eventually, like once we hit level 7, and the Hanzo was a real, an actual hero, and we could like, not only keep up with kind of their potential camp pressure, but like put more camp pressure on them. We were really able to get in sync with our rotations and kind of uh, make sure that we put a stop to everything they wanted. We got really well-timed ganks and strong team fights in our favor, where we were able to like, domino effect that into, grabbing their camps. And that's one of the great things about Hanzo on that map. I mean, I can't remember the interview I was reading, but where they were talking about how that map got broken by Hanzo
Yeah.
because he can just go in and, shred a boss in 6 to 8 seconds. You can, if you get a kill, you can instantly take their bruiser camp. So a lot of that was, I think once that came into play, like, we were just able to really accelerate our macro kind of style.
Yeah. So who or is it a group thing does your drafts and your shot calling? Is it kind of a team thing or is it a individual thing?
So I usually do drafts, but the way we do it is, so I'm draft shot caller, and then throughout our scrims, throughout our practices, we talk about our meta ideas, where we're at. We have like a whole channel on our Discord dedicated to us just talking about what we think about the meta, what we think is strong on certain maps, that kind of thing. And that kind of forms what we do as a group in the drafts and what we think is strong. And then when we're actually in drafts, like we're all kind of calling out like what we think is strong here. We have a group discussion kind of thing. So it's kind of like team based, with then a cohesive draft shot caller, just to make sure that the draft from start to finish has a kind of cohesive plan to it.
That makes sense. So did the games go how you guys planned? Since overall it seemed your core was never in any danger in game 1 or 2 overall.
I don't know how we had it planned, but the early game rotations went how we had planned, so that was good. And yeah, I mean, it felt like we wanted it to go. We didn't. So this is our first game of the season, so we didn't
Mhm.
know how we were going to stack up to the rest of the division. So I mean, I don't know how we thought we were going to do, but how we'd hoped we were going to execute it, that kind of went along with our game plan.
That's always good to hear.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, I'd like to give you the opportunity to give any shout outs.
Oh, I did not prepare for this. I mean, I guess the shout outs I'd like to give are obviously to my team members, because they have put in a lot of work, a lot of time when we're not even like in games. They're preparing and they're studying and getting ready for this. So definitely shout out to them. Shout out to the Reborn Knights organization. They provide a lot of great support. They're a really fantastic community. Have a really cool Discord that they support a lot of different teams from. They have a really great stream team. So I definitely recommend everyone go kind of check out the Reborn Knights and what that organization is doing. And then, yeah, I think that's about it.
All
Uh,
right.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time and best of luck to your team for the rest of the season. I'll definitely be looking forward to seeing some like more interesting drafts and more macro heavy playing from you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys. That'll be it for the interview, but we're still not done. We have one more. We're going strong. Thankfully, we had no instant replay screw up, and now with my instant on replay, we now have the ability to only watch an instant replay for 35 seconds maximum, which is exactly as long as the clip lasts for. So it should generally be a much better situation than it was. So stick tight. We're going to be back at 8:30 for Stepdads versus Hippity Hoppity. So I'm going to be popping up the replays from the last game for you guys to enjoy. First game, I kind of lost them in the shuffle a little bit, and I jumped through, jumped back and forth trying to fix stuff. But don't worry, you'll now get to enjoy the replays from last game.